almost 6 decades in the entertainment industry, this multifaceted entertainer has had a prolific career in acting, directing, teaching, and mentoring. You have seen him in classic theater productions, films, and television series. Some films he has starred in include Steven Spielberg's Poltergeist, Scream Blackula Scream, Black Fist, originally titled Bogart, Sugar Hill, Streets of Fire, Stick, The Main Event, Coming Home, Audrey Rose, Wag the Dog, Guess Who, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, For Colored Girls, Aftershock, The Nicole Bell Story, and Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black, which is #1 globally on Amazon Prime. He has appeared on your favorite television series to include Sister Sister, Saved by the Bell, The New Class, Grey's Anatomy, All My Children, The Black Hamptons, and The Miss Pat Show on BET+. The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd, Dynasty, Chicago Story, MacGyver, Parenthood, Saint Elsewhere, Judging Amy, NYPD Blue, Real Husbands of Hollywood, and currently is a series regular in Beauty and Black, which is #1 globally on Netflix. Although he has an extensive amount of additional credits, he is the owner of Richard Lawson Studios, where he provides empowerment and mentorship through a lens from experience, expertise, passion, etc. to assist those building their career in entertainment. He is now here on my podcast, One-on-One with DeAna Fai, introducing his first book titled The Artist's Roadmap, Navigating Your Career in Show Business. If you will, please welcome this incredible powerhouse of an actor, director, teacher, and mentor, Mr. Richard Lawson.
Wow, what an introduction.
Great.
Thank
you
so
for
much.
joining.
Oh,
No problem.
My pleasure.
No problem. So you have a new book, right? If I got it correct. You have a new book that you put out. And can you tell me about it? Can you tell me what inspired you to actually write this book?
Well, I've been teaching, I've been in the business since 1969.
Okay.
And I started teaching in 1980. And over the course of that time, I've taught tens of thousands of students. Used to teach at my mentor's school. His name is Milton Kitselis, and he taught like thousands of incredible actors, hundreds who became very famous, and I was one of their teachers. And so I've had the opportunity to teach some pretty amazing, successful people. And so I gained a lot of knowledge as a teacher and as a successful actor because, I have worked throughout my entire career. So, and I've accumulated a lot of knowledge, worked on a lot of shows, and was able to teach a lot of people. That's a lot of information. And so therefore it was like, the responsible thing to do was to be able to put that information in a book. And, and as the title indicates, it's helping people to navigate their career in show business. They're two separate things. Show is in terms of how you learn to deliver your art, and business is in terms of how you maintain and sell your art, meaning your product, and get it out there and expand upon it. So after all these years, it's like that knowledge needs to be passed on. So I not only teach people how to act, I teach people how to have a career, a long career, because it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right. It's so interesting about that is that you talk about, I know in your book you talk about your journey. So, what I found very interesting, I always like to take it back to the roots, where you began. Some of the careers that you may have had in the past that led you into this. I know that I saw that you were a U.S. Army Vietnam veteran. So was my father, but he was in the Navy. So that was nice to hear. And thank you for your service. But I also saw that, you had mentioned that I would still say that you are still an instructor. And that, with your careers that you've had in the past, even as like a drug counselor for the NBA, how did you come into the world of acting, or when you were younger? Was it something that was like a passion inside, but you kind of left it alone and came back to it? Where did it all begin?
Well, I had no desire to be an actor.
Oh,
That
wow. Okay.
that never occurred to me.
Oh, okay.
When I came up, you know, you always hear the things that people push you to as Black people. First of all, they want you to get a job and be able to take care of yourself.
Right.
And then the top of that heap in terms of possibilities of taking care of yourself is to be a lawyer or a doctor.
Correct.
Those two things seem to be at the pinnacle of one's success. And
Right.
so when I came up, my first indication was to be perhaps a doctor, because my mother was a nurse and I worked at my family doctor's. I did the maintenance on the office building, his office building. And so, and then when I went in the Army and got out of the Army, I decided I was going to be a lawyer. And so I got out of the Army. I could get out 3 months early if I went to college. And when I decided to do that, the only college I could get into was a junior college. So I went to Chabot Junior College. And being that there were no law courses there, I said, well, maybe I'll join the debate team. And debating is going to help me with, in the courtroom. So I went to the speech department. And while I was there, this woman heard my voice and asked me to get involved in Reader's Theater. And I did. And that's really where it began, because I was speaking in front of audiences, and the reaction, people reacted strongly to what I was doing. Then the drama coach asked me would I like to be in a musical called Golden Boy. And I said, why not? And I was fearless, I guess. And that was really the start of my career, was being in a musical where I had to learn to sing, dance, and act. And so that's where my career began. And I was 24 when that happened. So I guess I started late in terms of a lot of people start in college or they have childhood dreams. My dream in terms of acting was when I was in college. And fortunately enough, I had a revelation while I was doing that play, an epiphany that came to me and said, it was like God said, this is why I put you on this planet. And this is what your assignment is. And so from that day to this one, I have been on vacation. And almost 60 years, and I'm doing what I'm meant to do.
I commend you. I definitely believe in that. Finding a passion early in life, late in life, long as you find one, so that, you can have some sense of fulfillment. And I believe that, that's what it's all about, finding your purpose,
Right. Well, that is what it's about. Because that's your North Star.
Right.
If you know what your North Star is, your purpose, then you will survive the ups and downs and the roller coasters in this business, because you always come back to why you're doing this.
So basically there was a Bible verse that you provided in your book, and that always stands out to me. It was James 2:14, faith without work is dead. That's my aunt used to tell me that all the time. She was the one that raised me, helped raise me with my parents and things like that. And she took us to church all the time. That was one of her favorite Bible verses. So that stood out to me a lot. And I found that when I looked at one of your precepts, passion fuels progress, I felt like, you had brought up the sense of, purpose. And I feel like, I think purpose helps with determining what your passion is, your goal. It helps you reach your goal. Once you have that, you can fulfill your dreams. What do you think about, scripture with the relationship of your precepts?
Well, I think, precept actually means a general rule to empower imagination and understanding. Mm-hmm. And so the precepts are created in my life to be the guardrails for me to operate on. You know, things like um, um, there is so much good in the worst of us and so much bad in the best of us that it doesn't behoove any of us to talk about the rest of us.
Oh, okay.
Which basically means, you know, there are no perfect people in this world. You know, you do your best and forget the rest and stay out of other people's business and let them, you know, manage their own life. I can't judge you for who you are and what your choices are. I don't have to like them and I don't have to necessarily live with them, but I need to understand them and allow you the space and dignity to be yourself. You know, things like find the good and praise it. That's important. As a teacher, that's very important to me because I find the good and praise it. Why? Because you build strength where strength exists. You know, I need to find where your strengths are and build upon those, not your negative, not your dark side, your liabilities, but operate on your strengths. And so those kinds of principles and those kinds of ideals guide me. And a lot of those principles and ideals are derived from my spiritual basis. You know, what did you say? What was the scripture you used?
James 2:14.
Right. So faith without works is dead. You know, you can, people will pray about things that they desire or they want that doesn't necessarily exist. But you can be on your knees conceptually and pray all you want. But unless you are taking actions towards that, it is a gossamer thing. Meaning I can inhale a cigar, and when I blow it out, you see this volume of smoke, and quickly it dissipates into the atmosphere like it never existed and you don't see it anymore. That's what happens to prayer when there's no action to it. It dissipates and becomes gossamer. And it becomes a negative, because then you're saying, God, why aren't you doing something?
Right.
Why aren't you changing? I asked you for this and I asked you for that. And if you were listening, God would say, then get up off your knees and do something. Go take actions on it. What are the actions associated with this postulate that you're putting out there? And so what I teach people is, what is your purpose? Because if you're clear about what your purpose is, that is your guiding light. And that is what you will attach to. And it's a reason that gets you up in the morning. And it also helps to set the goals and the strategies that you need in order to go after the thing you want. And if you're going after it, you're going after it with a sense of integrity and a sense of ethics, which is spiritually driven. And therefore, if you keep putting that in the universe and keep taking actions towards that thing, it will occur. It will occur. It's just a matter of how strongly you believe and how passionately you continue to go after it. I don't care how long it takes. Because you may not get it when you want it, but you'll get it when you need it. So, you know, the whole aspect of faith without works is dead is driven by you following your purpose and getting out of the way and letting it, you know, it's sort of like the puzzle will create itself as long as you stay committed to why you're doing it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I was trying to figure out how to describe your book when I read it. And I think the best way I could talk about your book was that it felt like a workshop. You know how you read a book or you read something, you're reading it for knowledge and you kind of just take note, but it made you kind of self-reflect. You know, it kind of made me go like, hey, do I have this? Do I need to get this? Or do I need to kind of restructure some of the things I'm doing to, you know, align myself with these with these tasks and things of that sort to get me to another point. And I think that when different, I want to say talent or artists, because it can be anybody that I feel
Anybody.
that can benefit from this.
Exactly.
And I know that you, I know that you talk a lot of about actors and things like that, but it's so much in the book that can go with any career because
That's
you
right.
you list things like precepts, you provide affirmations, you help people plan how they should assess situations, build from it, and move forward. And so
Right.
the best thing I could say was that it felt like I was in a workshop. Like, for instance, most people took a biology course and they've had to use the microscope and see what was under the microscope. I felt like your book was a workshop where you actually had to think about things. You know, should I reassess my situation? Do I need to reroute to see
Mhm.
if this might be a better opportunity based off the resources that I have currently, the skills that I have, maybe things that I've learned in the past that can better help me be prepared or use
Right.
to move forward. And so that was the best way I could describe it. It felt like a workshop. Um,
Yeah.
and I do really appreciate it. I think a lot of people would benefit.
Well, it is a workshop, isn't it? Because I have call to actions in there. There's a
Right.
chapter I talk about something, and there's a call to action. So I want you to not only just ingest the information, but
Mhm.
then apply the information. How does it apply to your life? And yes, it's
Mhm.
not just for actors. I'm trying to empower people to achieve their dreams, and I'm just
Right.
using acting modalities to help you do it.
Right.
And so therefore, in what you said, a couple things you said reroute, right? Well,
Mhm.
you reroute when you understand your destination.
Mhm.
So therefore, somebody who's has a prayer, faith in something, and then you're putting the works in. So it starts with the faith, which is the why I want to do something. If I'm clear about why, then I'm more clear about what it is I need to do, what actions I need to take. So the
Right.
why out there is my GPS. When you put in GPS, it gives you a destination, and
Right.
the route there is the shortest distance between 2 points. But we can't control everything. So sometimes there are accidents, sometimes there are floods,
Right.
sometimes the car breaks down, and you have to reroute, and you have to reroute, and you have to reroute. But the destination is always connected to the reroute. So whatever you're rerouting, it's ultimately to get you to your destination. And if your purpose is strong enough, that destination never changes. You understand? Because you're
Right.
constantly rerouting towards this faith, this prayer, this posture that you have. And that
Right.
thing is always going to, because sometimes you just get tired. Sometimes you get off road. Sometimes you
Right.
get waylaid. And sometimes the people in your life suppress you to stop you from getting there.
Getting there.
And
Mhm.
so one of the things that I put in this book is how do you discern who's in your life? And so there's a whole section in there about who's on your bus, your career bus, your life
Right.
bus. You have to identify who these people are, and you have to be clear about what your exchange is with these people. Is it criminal exchange? Haters? You got to get them off the bus. Is it
Right.
people who it's unequal exchange? You give them $10, they give you $5 worth of work. Is it equal exchange? I give you 10, you do $10 worth of work. Is it exchange in abundance? I give you 10, you do $20 worth of work. Or do you have some real ride or dies on there? And then where are
Right.
they sitting on your bus? Are the ride
Exactly.
or dies in the passenger seat? Is the exchange in abundance sitting in the next row? The equal exchange in the next row? The unequal exchange in the next row? And the haters are
In the
in the
back.
back and getting off. And you can't be afraid to put them off.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't care who they
Right.
are. I don't care who they are. You love
Right.
them, you just can't ride my bus. And so
Right.
these are things that keep you on path to the why. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
If your bus is clean and you got a positive community and the culture is strong and positive, then you have a greater chance of getting there without as many reroutes.
And you know, you mentioned this about your mind having to be right in order to do that. You know, your mind has to be right in order to do things like that. That discernment doesn't just come without you being prepared for it. And I
Right.
think that that's what it's all about too, being
Right.
prepared for it.
Being prepared covers a lot of ground too, because it's like you have to be mentally, physically, and spiritually prepared. You have to be mentally prepared because you're feeding your mind positive things. You're feeding your mind, you know, a clarity of why, who you are, why you are, and what you are.
Right.
Spiritually, you have to be prayed up. You have to be, and prayer comes in a lot of forms. Prayer comes in something that you repeat, that you know, it's a mantra, things that you tell yourself. You surround yourself with positive things, affirmations that are constantly telling you, you know, things
Right.
that keep you straight, like, you know, never let my expectations get higher than my gratitude, is, you see,
Yes.
and so my ego is in check. You know, how much give do I have? How much service how much of being in service to others am I doing? You know what I mean? You
Right.
know, have I laughed fully, cried fully, and helped somebody else today? You know, these things keep you grounded in your spirituality. And then you have to be physically, you know, you have to keep you got to eat right, and you got to be physically in shape in order to be able to sustain this journey. So there's a lot of components to being able to have the life that you want, you know.
And you know, one of the things that came to mind when I was thinking of some of the prompts to ask you was that I kind of came across, you know, the word myths, you know, because sometimes I feel like myths can pull people down if they believe a certain way. Okay, well, you know, this is not the approach I need to take because I've heard this myth before. You know, if I do it this way, it's not going to work. You know, they already shoot themselves down believing things that may or may not exist, you know.
True that.
And so do you know any myths? Have you heard from your students, like any myths that they've come across, you know, when they were attempting to get into the industry and fulfill their dreams? Any myths that you may have heard?
Well, yeah, myths are very important. You know, it's important to understand the kinds of myths that occur. A lot of times, and here's an interesting thing.
Mhm.
If you study, and if you've been wise enough, smart enough, and you've done enough research, that you found the mentors that are really truly helpful and elevate you, you know, and you've done the research, and then you find those people that can mentor you, then,
Right.
and you do the things necessary in order to have the career that you want. Some of the myths that you're going to deal with is the myths that the people around you carry, because
Right.
everybody wants you to be successful, you know, or at least some do, a lot.
Um,
But
yeah.
they carry these myths of like, well, it's show business and you got to be careful because people will take
Yeah.
advantage of you, or, you know, you need to get you a real job. That's a hobby. You know,
Yep.
and so many actors and artists struggle. You know, I don't want to see you struggle. And they have all these myths that are perpetuated by the media and by the things that they read and the
And see.
sensationalism, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so one of the things you have to do as an artist is to understand who you are, what it is you want to do, train for that, actually take classes and prepare yourself and study so that you can help educate the people around you to avoid the pitfalls and the traps of the
Correct.
myths that they take on. You know,
Right.
because that, going back to your bus, if your bus is filled with a lot of people carrying all these fears, as opposed to really understanding what your journey is and what your dream is, and that they prepared for this journey and you're prepared to support them in their journey, then these myths can't get in and be as negatively affecting as somebody who just picks up a lot of garbage and noise. And right now with social media, you know, it's hard to really understand and be able to separate truth from fiction, from myths and reality, because of the fact that, you know, you don't know one from the other unless you're trained to see. That's why, you know, I don't believe what I read.
Right.
I search for my facts on my own, and I come to my own determination about what is true. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of work, because you gotta filter all of the BS, you know?
Right. And you know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate and talk a lot about the different variations of how myths come about. It could have just been your culture of care, is what I would like to say. The culture of care of how you were raised, or you know, always being fearful to drive somewhere. Don't go there; it's a bad neighborhood, or don't go over here. Like, so you kind of condition yourself to believe one way. So, you know, that's why I think it's important for people to have books like this. I've never seen books like this where there's mentorship in the education. You know, it's one thing to teach a skill and you're able to do it, but the why of why you're doing it is what people usually miss in this industry.
That's the first question when somebody comes to my class. That's one of the first things I get to. So one of what one has to do coming into my class is that I want to know what your dream is. You know, I want you to be able to write out your dream extravagantly in terms of what your dream is. Not your dream for your kids, not your dream for your husband, not your dream for your family, no one else. What is your dream sans everybody else, so that I understand what you see for yourself. Then once you understand what you see for yourself, then you start factoring in the other elements of your life.
Right.
You are not your children's life. You are not your husband's life. You are not your mother-in-law, your mother's life. You have a life independent of everyone else. And when you understand what that is, then you start to add and conclude other people and how you need to take care of them and include them in your gifts. And so that has to do with the why. The first thing I'm interested in is you finding your purpose. If we can find that, then nothing can stop you. Nothing.
No myths, no nothing.
Nothing. Nothing. You're able to filter out all of the other considerations. Like, for instance, I teach a lot of women. The majority of the people that I teach, because interestingly enough, you know, women are smarter than men, and women will study quicker than a man will. And so therefore, the classes that I've always taught, whether they were mine or someone else's, you know, sort of, it was like 60-40, sometimes 65-35 in terms of the number of women versus the number of men. And so I have seen a lot of women's lives get waylaid because of, you know, you create this dream, they create the dream, they create this path and vision for themselves, and they're on their way. And in the process of being on their way, they meet John Doe. It's like, oh my God. And their heart gets involved. And it's like, and the man says, I want to marry you. It's like, okay, let's do it. You know, but you know, I have this dream. I know, but we'll work, we'll figure that out. And they get in there, and then they have first child, they have the second child, they have the third child, and then become soccer mom, and then they become this, and they become that. They become the good wife, and they become all of that. And where is their dream? Somewhere in the rearview mirror.
Right.
And then years go by, they're no longer pursuing their dream, and then divorce happens, and then whatever. And now, 20 years later, they're trying to resurrect a career.
Right.
And so therefore, the reason why your vision and dream and postulate is so important, your purpose, is so that you have something strong enough to handle all of the expectations of the people around you.
Right.
And so that you don't become a victim to your own life. Because you are that without your dream in place. Because eventually your regret starts to rise and rise and rise. And then you become resentful, and, you know, it's
Yeah.
I've seen it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I think that's very important that, you find, when I go, for instance, if I go searching or research something, I always like to find something that is going to provide me insight, not just the knowledge, but insight where it gives me perspectives. And that's the kind of books I like to look for. I know a lot of people look for information because I know, like, first starting out, at some point, I'm pretty sure at some point, maybe most of us have done it, where we have said, I want to pursue this particular career field. And your head is so big and it's like, oh, I just want to know the information. Tell me real quick. Just tell me what I have to do. Let me do it right now. But they don't want to prepare. They don't want to do the legwork that it takes to, in their mind, slowly get there. To them, it's slow because, oh, just give me what I need right now. Like, for instance, I know that it has been a thing, especially when I was younger and I said, hey, I want to pursue this. It was a thing where, okay, I need a manager. Everybody thinks they need a manager. Everybody thinks they need an agency. Everybody thinks they need all these different things. But in so many words, do we have something to manage? Do we have something that an agency can use to make money off of you? Unfortunately, that is the game. But we're not prepared to get to that point. But we think, hey, I need a manager right away. That's gonna make me a star right now if I get a manager in an agency. But you didn't properly prepare to get to a point where you can monetize and make a living or lucrative living for yourself.
Right, exactly. So many. See, and the biggest, it's so interesting because I've had this conversation with a number of people, where young people today, the biggest problem with teaching young people today is their lack of patience.
Right.
And their lack of the marathon and the lack of a career, rather than finding the show that they can get instant success on. And so it's in terms of the challenges is trying to get young people to understand process.
Right.
You have to be, for you to be able to be good enough, you need to be prepared. You need training so that when you go in for those auditions, yes, you might have an interesting persona. You might be funny, you might be beautiful, attractive, but you are green. You're not experienced. And so someone says, well, they have potential, but they're not prepared. They're not ready for this. And so a bad impression is worse than no impression, because a bad impression, they say, give them 2, 3, 4 years. And that means that casting director or that director has got you on a side shelf, and they expect to see you 4 years from now, and you might be more prepared. So therefore, get prepared so that people can see you, so that they can see that you not only have talent, but you are professional, and that you can handle this, and that there is something for them to manage or be an agent for the long haul, and it's not just this instant thing, right?
Right.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. People need to be prepared so that the agent manager has something to work with and build on. How can you scale up? What is scalable? lack of preparation, amateurism is not scalable.
Right.
Preparation and experience is scalable.
I know your book, provides or shares insight to like how Hollywood finds you, and you mentioned various platforms, but I focus more on the social media aspect, just because we're in a time where most people are using these platforms to whether monetize or gain visibility and things like that. And so one of my biggest concerns is the fact that because I've seen, in layman's terms, not to beat around the bush, I've seen social media kind of give a false narrative on engagement and perception of of what talents are doing well, in a sense that at a time where we had people buying bots, comments, likes, things like that, what would you say to someone to basically give them a sense of, hey, this is the assurance that you need to show that you are doing well as a talent?
Well, it goes back to the why.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I understand why I'm doing this, then it's going to let me know what I need to expand on this and enhance this. So anything you create social media wise lives in the same ecosystem as the why, because if you understand why, then what you're going to create is going to be an extension of the why. So if you look at the why being the axis of the wheel, then all the spokes go out is from the same axis that continues to turn for the same reason in the same way, and that never changes. The spokes you can change, meaning this project, this thing, this social media, the stuff that you post is all going to feed back to an organic source of who you are. So when somebody sees you, they know who you are because your voice is speaking from the similar place. Now you can be creative in the kind of things that you put up there social media wise. Like for instance, I started a Substack channel. Well, the Substack channel is created so that I can have control of, because people put their email addresses. I'm not dependent upon an algorithm to determine who's going to see me.
See it.
People come because they put their email address. And what are they coming for? If I'm connected to my why, and I understand one of the greatest things that I can share with people is the same reason I wrote that book. I have information. I have a process. I have access. I know a lot. I've experienced a lot. I've been in this business for 60 years. So therefore, I must know a lot to be able to be relevant in the #1 show across all streaming networks, where in the last year and a half, almost 2 billion people have viewed this show. You understand that I've got something to say. So in my Substack channel, why wouldn't you want to come and see what it is I have to say? And so therefore, that is in terms of taking my social media thing and using it according to my why, which is always at the basis of everything you do. So that's how social media can work for you. If I'm just out there trying to get numbers, it's not sustainable. Yeah, you might make a few dollars because you say, hey, I got this new razor and it will last you 30 shaves. And you make a few dollars, but I'm looking to be able to create legacy. And so that legacy means that I want people to come because they want to know what I'm talking about and they like where I'm coming from. And so therefore I'm taking my career and my success as an actor and pointing the light, taking that spotlight and put it over there so some people can come over there to find me, and taking that same spotlight and putting it over there and creating something that I'm creating now is those vertical series
Right.
those things that you swipe, and so that people create a platform where people can
Right.
come and find me. I'm also creating a cartoon for kids, starting with toddlers through high school, the same 3 characters, toddler, elementary, middle, and high school. And you see my 3 characters that I created, which is an extension of me and my 2 alter egos, Richard and Tricky, and they're real, and I'm constantly battling. Richard says, hey, he's a spiritual person. He says, hey, don't get on that plane. And Tricky said, man, come on, man, we got to go to Cleveland. And I'm dealing with these 2 elements.
Yeah.
And as we all have, fighting the good and fighting the dark side of us,
Right.
And so I created a cartoon for kids who's constantly going to be dealing with, choices. And so it's like I'm creating all this other stuff, but at the basis of it is my purpose. And my purpose ultimately is to move the culture forward.
Right. And that's and you know what you said is basically what I wanted to get at. It's basically the you. It's not in comparison. It's always about what your goal is in mind. So it doesn't matter. I know a lot of people, friends and things like that, they compare, quite naturally you do that, but you compare all the time, well, my following doesn't look like this person, or this person has this type of content. Well, that's what it is. That's that person. It's about you and your why. That way you're able to, like you said, scale of have some type of measurable I guess database in your systems of how you want to get to the point where you want to be. And I think that's what it's all about. It's about you, your purpose, your why. And that is what will make you successful, because the check marks are not just for what everybody else's has. It's your check marks.
Yeah. I have, from the time I've always had my own, I was always the purple cow.
Okay.
So in Los Angeles, you go to San Francisco, which is about 400 miles from here, you go up Highway 5. And about halfway up, there's this Hughes Ranch, I think it's called. And right next to the highway, there's like 1 million cows.
Okay.
And it's where it's beef. They take the cows, and that's where a lot of stores and stuff get their beef from. But the cows look all the same. You can't tell one from another. There's 1 million cows. You put a purple cow in the middle of that, and your eye is gonna go straight to this purple cow.
Right.
I've always been the purple cow.
Yeah. There's always one in the family, though.
Yeah. It's not because I wanted to try to be different than everybody else. I just had my own way of doing things and my own way of thinking about things. And I was always passionate. And so therefore, I never did things the way everybody, I'm not that trend person.
Me too.
I'm not that person to go buy the latest thing, getting the haircut, like everybody's got that little haircut now, and then they got that little thin little streak across the front and down the side, and then your hair actually starts back here, and all this is a strip of, it's like every other person is doing their hair like that. It's like, I
don't want that.
I'm not a part of the group. I'm not.
Me either.
I'm not the pawn on the chessboard. I'm not. I'm going to be the king. You know what I mean? And so, And so that I just walk a different beat, and I never could. I never could be the copycat.
Right.
And that's what I want to. That's what I want to teach other people, because we are all so unique. We're like a thumbprint. There's only one thumbprint. Your thumbprint. That's how they identify people. Is they get you a thumbprint, right?
Right.
So your uniqueness is you. That's who
it's special.
You are.
It's special.
It's special. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna go to this part where I liked how you broke down the 3 ways of casting in your book. And I thought that was unique, because I was trying to think about some things that I might have done just to relate or think about. So I understand that you talk about the three waves of casting, and like in short terms, I would consider the first wave to be more something like you're used to, something you, like you said, you could do in your sleep. And then the second wave is more so a little bit more riskier. And then the third one is, okay, very risky. I have to do my research and figure out how I can, basically become this character. And so, with that being said, I know you had mentioned an actor that, as an example, that he played this role a lot of times, played this police officer a lot of times in films, and I guess he just kept picking up these roles. For me, I would think, okay, that's cool, because he's still making money. To somebody else, they may say, well, no, because that might prohibit him from getting another role. It's the same idea when we look at romantic comedies or dramas, and we say to this day we don't like this actor because he was mean to this woman, and we're still mad at him today. So what do you think about typecasting when it comes to the waves? Do you think someone should just stay in something if they got a good momentum, or do you think they should grow?
I think it depends on what you see for yourself in your career.
Yeah.
Now the things that you were talking about is waves of casting. So like the concept is, if you took a rock and you dropped it in flat water, that a wave, the first circle is it would drop and then it would go whoop, 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 right? So the first wave of casting is the thing that is the closest to that rock. The second wave is a little bit further out. The third wave is a little bit further out. Now, the first wave of casting, somebody says, can you teach anybody to act? Yes, I can. The reason why is that when someone starts out, I'm not trying to get them to play Hamlet. You know what I mean? If you came to me, and like this one gentleman came into my class, he had been in aircraft. He made aircraft parts, tooled aircraft parts, and he sold it for like $60 million. When he got out of the business, he wanted to be an actor. That's what he always wanted to do, and he never tried it, right? So it's like he came, he says, I don't know if I can act or not, but I just want to give it a try. I said, yes, you can. I said, and here's why you can. First of all, if I can get you comfortable just to be present in your own body, and we learned some basic tools about the language and nomenclature of acting, like event, evaluation, moment before, your objective, and stuff like that. And I had you to read parts of a guy who's a businessman, a successful businessman, somebody who negotiates, somebody who handles other people. All of these things were things that he did naturally. You understand? So I'm not asking him to do anything outside of what is his immediate comfort zone. Right. But I get him comfortable in his immediate comfort zone. So the first circle of casting is, what can you do without even having to think about it? Because that's what you do. You know what I mean? And so what occupation? You said you're in medicine?
Well, I have, medical background.
Okay, what did you do in the medical background?
EMT.
EMT. So if I said, what would be, so if
that's one of them. That's one of them.
Okay, so you're gonna play an EMT person. They're looking for
very
people
easy.
EMT. They're looking for people who work in the emergency room. They're looking for nurses who can handle certain things. That's all within your strengths, right? So you can play parts like that, and then parts that start to branch out a little bit further than that, right? And so you start where you are and you work out from there. Now, the second circle of casting is like, you're not, it's like, if I ask you to play a social worker, right? So you as an EMT person, you're asking those questions. So, what were you doing? And did you have anything to drink? And so on.
Right.
So a social worker is saying, okay, and they're asking questions, trying to get information from you. You can play parts like that. Now, if you had to play a cowgirl, riding a horse,
Yeah.
that means that now you got to go and find out about this woman. So you got to go
Right.
to where horses are. You got to learn about bridles and saddles and
Right.
feeding a horse and walking a horse and riding a horse. That is working from the outside in. So when you put
Right.
those boots on and you put that hat on, you put that jean shirt on, it does something. It affects you from the outside in. So one way is working from the inside out, and the third circle is working from the outside in. That's what those 3 circles of castings are. The way of casting, right? And so I can teach anybody how to act. Now it's a question of how much work you want to do in order to really master each of those areas.
Right. So it's case by case scenario, obviously.
It's case by case. It's case by case. Yes.
Yeah. So
Hey,
have you seen?
Let me just address one other thing. The actor that I was talking about, his name was Dennis Franz.
Okay.
Now, Dennis Franz worked with me. I did a series called Chicago Story. He was a uniform cop. Then he went to Hill Street Blues. And then he went to another show. And then he went to NYPD Blue. So he played cops for like 20 some years. Typecasting? Okay, maybe. But
yeah, but it's still good for him, right?
Still good for him. He never stopped working.
Right.
My friend Jim Pickens has been who run the hospital of Grey's Anatomy. Now they're in their 23rd season.
Right.
Why would he leave that to go do something else?
Right. And the reason why I brought it up was because, typecasting tends to have a negative connotation all the time. And
it does.
And I feel like I feel like it shouldn't, because there's a lot of roles, if we looked at it from a different angle, like even if we use the police officer, or let's just say the bad guy, well, they might play a villain in a Marvel movie, right?
He might.
Yeah, so like
or I look at Jim Pickens, who for 23 years, and I know Jim has got to be making more than $1 million a year.
Right.
Well more than that, right? So he can take that money as a millionaire, as a multimillionaire, and now he can go create his own shows, produce his own shows, get his own building and start his own production company. And so, it's all relative. At the end of the day, what kind of career do you want?
Right.
What's important to you? I'm doing things now that I never imagined that I would do. But I'm also 60 years into a business, and I'm dealing with the reality of the way the business is. I look at my age and I look at the reality of the business, and certain things I have to reroute and readjust on so that I can continue creating my own career and continue being relevant and continue making money and being able to support myself.
So in terms of these waves, do you remember what yours was? Like your first wave, your second, and your third?
Well, when I first came into this business, I was a young leading man. But I came into the business in 1969, 70, where the business didn't accommodate me in terms of me playing those kind of parts.
Okay.
I had to go out and make that happen, right? And so then I became the young leading man. And then I was one of the hot new Black actors in Hollywood during the 70s and early 80s. And then Denzel came along and he started, his career started to rise. And then Sam Jackson's career started to rise. And then the kind of parts that, I played, I played a lot of co-starring parts and also starring in series where I wasn't necessarily the number one on the call sheet, but I was 2, 3, 4, or 5. Like for instance, now, in terms of this ensemble cast that I have, I'm not number one on the call sheet, but I'm one of the main actors in Beauty and Black. And so you constantly are rerouting and shifting and dealing with the times and in terms of what's real and what you create for your, because there's two elements to a career. One element is what I call plan A.
Mm-hmm.
That's the career that I create for myself. That's all the shows, that's
Right.
all the films that I create. Those are the things that I direct. Those are the things that I write. That's the career that I'm developing on my own. That's plan A. Plan B is Hollywood. Those are the parts that come to me and me being prepared. So those are the,
Right.
having the headshots and the resume, going on auditions, going to, to various things and networking, making sure that people are up on what I'm doing today. That's
Right.
Hollywood. So plan A is my career, plan B is Hollywood.
Right.
So plan A plus plan B equals C, which is my career.
Right.
So my career is inclusive of both of those elements. It's not
Right.
one thing. You understand?
Right. Right. Okay, so one of the main questions I wanted to ask, I know you're reaching almost 6 decades of being in this particular field, entertainment field, and I figured you'd have a lot of wisdom when it came to going through things where you might have had worked on projects, you've worked with professionals where maybe things didn't pan out as well. Right? Whether you were the problem or they were the problem or so forth, what would you tell someone navigating through this business, if that were to occur, how you would handle that?
Well, the best way to handle anything is, first of all, be a professional.
Right.
Secondly, how can you improve? How can you make what you're working on better? Third, what is your give? Fourth, what is your level of preparation? So therefore, if my purpose is to always contribute and make whatever it is I'm working on better, if my exchange with the company and the people that I'm working with is to try to make it a better place,
Right.
then my actions are going to be inclusive, supportive, understanding, and professional. I show up on time. I handle, it's one of the things in order to be able to have the best career you possibly can have is to understand where you understand diplomacy.
Yeah.
Diplomacy is the ability to tell a person to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip.
Right.
So if you learn to do that, then you're never going to want to reach up and grab the throat of this jerk, this person, and say or do something that is going to ultimately damage your career, because there are no witnesses, or because see, when you're Black, you all it takes is one strike, and then your name gets around Hollywood so quickly that the concept of blacklisting becomes real.
Yeah.
If you're white, you can fail upwards. If you're Black, there's only one way to fail, and that's going down.
Right.
So it's important how you manage yourself in regards to the people, places, and things that you are working with.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to manage people, manage yourself, manage expectations, manage your gratitude, and always try to leave more on the table than that was there to begin with.
Right. Yeah. Very good. That's some very good advice. I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about a career in general, we always think about, and it's good to be positive. It's good to have a vision where you only see like, hey, great things, but there's going to come a time where you're going to have some roadblocks. You're going to do the rerouting because things didn't pan out right. Maybe the production company you were supposed to work for, that plan didn't pan out right for you, so now you have to do something else. So it's like, it's very important to know, like, in other words, you got to kind of move on, but, remain professional at all times. Um, and I guess that's what it is. You're not going to always have things where it's going to be your way. Even if you're the nicest character or the nicest person, things may not still go as planned, but you got to keep moving forward, right? Otherwise, you won't make
See,
it. Like,
I'm the reroute king.
right,
I see stops as opportunities.
right.
You know,
Lessons. I think
I
you
see,
mentioned that in one of your
yeah,
precepts.
there are no losses, there are only
Right,
lessons. You
right,
know, I see when I come upon the China Wall, I see it as an opportunity because it's like, wow, look at that. And it's like, okay, I can't go straight ahead right now. So that means I can go around, I can go under it, or I can go over it, or I can get the biggest amount of dynamite and try to blast my way through,
right,
but I'm not going to be stopped by it, because I see it as God saying, hey, I got something bigger for you. And
right,
so we got to figure out, and now you just have the challenge of getting on the other side so we can
right,
continue this journey. And so it's never, ever a stop. It's frustrating sometimes, and it's like, it breaks your rhythm sometimes, but you got to see the opportunity in it. So I don't care if it's relationships, I don't care if it's a job, I don't care whether, I don't care what war, I don't care what it is.
right,
It's just the lesson. What's the lesson? How can I move
right,
around it? Because you got to be like water at the end of the day.
right,
At the end of the day, when everything else in this planet is no longer, water will be here, and water is going to take over everything. You let something sit without any care, water is eventually going to create growth around it where it becomes overgrown. It's going to saturate it, it's going to tear it down, it's going to whatever. So you have to be like water where you can be reshaped. You can go around it, over it, through it, whatever, but you cannot be stopped.
right. And I like one of your precepts. I like the outflow. Outflow equals inflow. That was
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Because it always brings me back to scriptures. And you just do your best. You give it your all, and you just wait for all the blessings to come your way. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. So I always tell people, try to encourage people. Still keep doing what you do, no
Right.
matter what comes your way. Keep continue to do what you do. Uh,
Outflow equals inflow is basically karma.
yeah.
And do your best and forget the rest.
Yeah, I like that. I think a
You
lot of
do your
people
best.
will
I see
appreciate
people,
it.
people all the time saying, well, how'd it go? I don't know. I didn't like it. I could have done better. Well, why didn't you?
Yeah,
Well, because you did your best with the circumstances at that moment. And
right,
that's all there was. So you did your best. Now forget the rest. Now, or
right,
try it again. Try it again. You know what I
right,
mean? But don't lament. Don't spend time beating
right.
yourself up
Dwelling.
because it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to turn out.
Kind of curious. When you're getting ready to film, what is like your regimen when you get ready to film? Whether it be a serious piece, something funny, comical. Like, what do you do when you get ready? Like when you're actually about to get on set.
So this behind me here, Aftershock,
Hmm. Hmm.
is the Nicole Bell Story.
Okay.
And the character right here is Sean Bell, who got shot at 50 times in Queens in 2006, the morning that they were supposed to get married.
Okay.
I play Al Sharpton right here,
Okay.
and Reverend Al Sharpton, who started a whole movement for that, right? You can find that on Amazon Prime and Apple TV. Now, if you go to my IG, I have a red track outfit on, and I talk about my preparation and what I did to play Al Sharpton. Reverend Al Sharpton. And I have a whole, behind me sits this chart. It's a character chart. And it's how I create my characters. Every character that I play, I create a character chart. And in that chart is a scientific way that I figure out who Al Sharpton is through using anthropology, behavioral anthropology, in terms of study of the social, the behavioral, the spiritual, the moral, and the physical aspect of this particular human being. I put all of that in the chart, and I know every single detail about who he is and my choices in terms of playing him. And I go through all of that. Now I even show you the wig that I bought to play Al and all of that. So that's something I would suggest you and your listeners do, and you'll get what my secret sauce is.
Now, do you think acting is therapy for some people? Like, you know how, like, for musicians like myself, I like to write songs. That's my thing to kind of, release and things like that. Do you think actors do the same? Is that like a therapy in its own?
Well, listen, when I look at the trauma in my life, growing up in the projects, growing up in a house with a mother who worked 16 hours a day for 16 years, who had very little patience, and so therefore there was a certain kind of trauma that existed in our house. From going to Vietnam, to being in plane crashes, to surviving drug addiction, divorces, multiple divorces. There's a lot of trauma.
Right.
As an actor, I'm able to put all of that into the characters that I play.
Yeah.
So my characters have been my counselors. In a sense. There's been my source of therapy, because I'm able to put that on the screen where people say, oh my God, I understand that. Oh, he was so good in that, or he did that, or he really played that part, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like in my diabolical character I'm playing in Beauty and Black.
Beauty and Black.
and so a lot of that goes into Norman. Or whether it's comedy or tragedy, I know the full circumference of life, and so I'm able to put all of that, from the joy to the trauma, in the characters I play. And so those characters have been my therapists, so to speak.
Yeah. I kind of figured that, when you think about it, it's kind of similar with musicians. You always hear a lot of musicians always state, my release efforts are, writing or playing, an instrument and things like that. So I just figured, at some point, maybe actors maybe go through the same thing. They use that as a form of therapy. So I was kind of curious to know that. Yeah.
Well, Duke Ellington said, whenever I felt the need to pout, I wrote some blues instead.
But you know what's interesting? I've written happy songs when I was sad. I've written happy songs when I was sad, and I tend to do the opposite. I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah. So. It goes into. It goes into your. You listen to Ella Fitzgerald or Lady Day, or Audra Day, or any one of those people, Aretha Franklin. You hear the pain of their life, but you also hear the joy of their life too.
Right.
And so therefore, because the interesting thing is that those opposite emotions sit on the other side of the coin. Heads and tails is love and hate. Love and hate come from the same place. You can't hate somebody unless you love them. You don't hate people that you don't know. You just don't like them, but you don't hate them.
Right.
But the people that you love are the people that you can also hate, because that degree of passion, that degree of the feelings are just as powerful when it's on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about characters, you know what I mean? You know, when you see someone who has all that sweetness and stuff, you know, you got to understand that the opposite of that emotion is in there as well.
Yeah.
I always said Mother Teresa was a whore. That's why she was so good, because she had all that other stuff that made her that good.
So just so you know, I was thinking when I was reading this book, you know, I've used a lot of things to keep a mark in the book so that I can come back and kind of reference different things. So I've brought it with me just so you can see. I brought my candy. I use candy to keep a hold in the book. I've used even, really, honestly, I've also used like computer paper. I think you need a bookmark with the same artwork for this.
So, nice. I like that. I like that.
You can imagine what I use to hold my mark, just to kind of go back and reference. From, I know a lot of people have done, I've used rulers. I've used whatever. I've used a blanket, a pillow to kind of like hold and put it different places. Yeah, but I was thinking like, oh, you know what? Maybe he should do like a bookmark with the same artwork.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna do that.
But you know, it's interesting. Anytime I get a book, you know, I used to be the one to go to like a Barnes and Nobles, or actually go to a bookstore when I was actually looking for something specific. And you know, I would never be the person to buy a bookmark. But if it was online and I saw it and it's together or something, I would just get it. Because then, oh, that's neat. I've never seen that before. Never seen that. Don't put the book.
I like that. I'm gonna.
But I thought it was funny because I was thinking about. I was like, oh my gosh, I literally have my candy in between my snacks. I have different things, you know. And I was like, you know, I don't have a bookmark all this time, but I don't have a bookmark. But I said, let me tell him that.
Well, listen, thank you so much for reading the book and getting so much out of it. I really,
I still have to go back, though. I still have to go back and reference some things because like I said, it was a workshop, so it was nice to kind of, especially the precepts. You know, I know you talked about prisms. You know, the prisms that you have. You know, to show people how they navigate. But the precepts, you know, I like that because we can trick our mind to believe anything, and then you won't even get started, you know, or you won't finish. So so that's big on, you know, going for something that most people are not doing. Like we like to think that a lot of people are doing it, but a lot of people aren't. And so I just really appreciate it. So honestly, this was awesome. You know, I can't explain. It's hard to explain to the average reader if I'm looking at, and I don't like to say average reader, but people that typically read often, or they're just getting into the business. You know, there is not one comprehensive book that I've found to give you a thought process. It's always just the information, or it's not enough information in one book. You know, you have to get another book, get this book, get that book, get that book. There's no blueprint on how you can, so to speak, get there. A journey might be different for everybody, but you know, the same tools that you need, the same resources are there. They may reshape itself, you know, that maybe the name of the platform may change or things like that, but it's still the same idea. In other words, how to prepare to get seen, how to prepare to be the best version of yourself as an entrepreneur. And I think that you know, when people look at this, I want them to be reminded that this is just not for talent or artists. You can use that in your career field, any career field, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it is so heartwarming, you know, that what I wanted to impart. And if someone were to say to me, what would you want people to walk away with from reading your book?
Right.
I would say, listen to this podcast, because what she says is exactly what I would want to impart and what I would want people to have. at the
Appreciate
end
it.
of it. And so therefore, you're like a billboard to the book.
Oh wow. But it's so interesting because it's not so much about hey, you're on here, you're supporting me, of helping to give back to creatives. But it's more about, a lot of people are not aware that you won't find this kind of information like all the time. You won't find it. And
No.
so usually we used to say you had to find it. You had to know people to get that insight. You had to, get lucky for some people, or be blessed for others, that hey, you walked up on this person and they gave you a chance and things like that. And it's like, I know that even when I took music business in college, this was things like this was not there. You had
Yeah.
to gather other resources to get that, or we had to have, kind of, maybe you've done this before, where we had some of our alumni come back and speak to the students, or things like that. Workshops is what they would call it.
Yeah.
And you would get that insight only from that aspect. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
never one book that gave
Yeah.
you like a comprehensive comprehensive instruction on how to navigate from start to base. I don't want to say finish, but infinity. From start to
Right.
infinity, there's no
Right.
there's no end here. You're
Right.
always revamping, you're always improving yourself.
Right. Right. And I'm still doing that today.
Yeah.
I'm still having to relearn, AI, for
Right.
instance.
I have to get on that. I have to get on that.
Listen, it was so amazing. I I'd learned something today that was really amazing. I created, like you got to do a photo session, and so you pay for a photographer and you go and you do this photo session, and all I had to do was upload one of my photos, which was a selfie. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just a selfie, and I uploaded this selfie, and I told ChatGPT exactly what I wanted, the kind of photograph, the setting, what I had on, the lens to use, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because at the end of the day, it's all about how you prompt it.
Right.
And I prompted ChatGPT, and I came up with 10 different photographs that I can use as my headshots.
And they
And
look
then
real. They didn't change. It didn't look like too okay.
it looked exactly like me.
Right.
And it was like impressive. And it was like, man, how much money did I save? How much time did I save?
Facts.
And how and if I needed a photograph specific to something, and they said, we want to see him it's a white tuck situation, and it's like we want to see him in a situation where he's standing in the foyer or something really, really classy. Bam. And I create the prompt, I tell it exactly what I want, and within 5 minutes, in terms of it now processing it, I have the result and I can send that.
That's the photos for I guess submitting your work,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So taking
exactly,
photos and
exactly,
things like that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's so many ways, and so that's a
Yeah.
whole new learning curve. That's a whole
Right.
new learning curve. So
Yeah, I
it's
might get a certification in that. I thought about it a
you
couple
should.
like couple months ago. I might get a certification. But it's funny because I just talked to my friend about that. She was telling me, my makeup artist was telling me about the this exact same thing that you were talking about, literally.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and she had sent me some pictures that she had created with Chat GPT. But it's
Hmm.
very interesting because it will save a lot of money. People make a lot of money with artwork.
Hmm.
You could spend, like, I mean, almost $100, $50 to $100 on up just for a simple artwork. But now we
Hmm.
have Canva, we have
Hmm.
AI, we have Chat GPT, things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
So yeah, so hey,
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's about how efficient can you use your time, because time
right,
is money. So,
yeah,
I'm looking to try to save 15, 20, 25 hours a week by,
right.
cutting to the
Just
chase.
on
So,
this.
yeah.
And then if
So
you're
you,
if you're if you're like me, you kind of, I don't like to say this, it sounds negative sometimes, but sometimes you want to do stuff yourself. because you know exactly what you want, instead of having to give everyone a detail like, hey, I needed this, and then comes back to you and you still need corrections, right? So if
Right.
you're anything like me, you kind of want to do it yourself.
Yeah,
you
totally,
know
totally. So listen, this has been really wonderful.
Thank you, I
Uh,
appreciate it.
hey, y'all, my name is Richard Lawson. I'm an actor, director, writer, producer, creator, inventor. You can find me on Substack. You just go to richardlawsonstudios.substack.com. You can find me on Instagram and other social media at Mr. Richard Lawson. You can see my work on Netflix, Beauty in Black, a #1 show across the globe. You can see this film that's right here behind me on Apple TV or Prime Television. On Amazon, I did a movie that you can see there called Divorce in the Black, a wonderful movie. So I got a lot of stuff going on. I want y'all to come and join me, because especially on my Substack channel, because I have some really cool stuff. As a writer, I've written some amazing stuff. So come check me out, follow me. All right, that's it, and that's all.
Oh. Well, thank you again for joining me. Until next time, I will make sure I put out a word for this great book, The Artist's Roadmap, Navigating Your Career in Show Business. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, thank you.
I'm excited. No problem. I really appreciate it.
All right, God bless you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you go. From Mr. Richard Lawson himself, you are getting a book that teaches you the art of developing as an artist, from passion to application to strategy, the important tools necessary for achieving success in any field, as well as acting. But he also provides insight to creating the best package for presentation, resources necessary for branding that will aid in producing streams of income, and so much more. This book is also about self-reflection. Hone in on your passion and take it a step further with The Artist's Roadmap, Navigating Your Career in Show Business. Thank you, Mr. Lawson, for joining my podcast, One-on-One with DeAna Fai.